Guys, I am back. I am sorry I've been taking a little hiatus from making the videos. I do whatever my spirit wants me to do. So I've been taking a leave of absence from sitting in front of the computer, and I've actually been physically in the world doing things. So the fire principle is being activated because the weather is really nice here in Georgia. And so I am not using as much yin energy, which is restful energy. I have been actually using the fire principle of activity and doing some things, being involved in my town and other things. So I wanted to really dive in. Oh my gosh, with the Egypt. Egypt is not what we are being told. We're being told everything but what Egypt is truly about. And once we do some more research, and I know that I've been wanting to do more research on this because I suspect some things, especially with the pyramids at Giza Strip, that they are actually aligned specifically on the parallel with Orion, and that using this energy is what they were actually doing. And I believe it was for their resurrection spells and amplification of magic. I'm donning these glasses right now to see this about Egypt, just based on the name alone. And some of the things that I'm coming across, because I'm telling you, when you learn symbolism, guys, you learn the symbols, you learn the language of what's actually being spoken, and instead of what you're being told. So let's dive in. We have what we know as the Ankh. This is one of the symbols. It's a tool that's used in Egypt quite frequently, and it's supposed to represent life, right? Well, I suppose it could be both, but when it is upright like this, it represents death. And let me show you why. This is an alchemy chart. And in this chart, the symbol for death is this idea of the vessel. This is a vessel. The vessel can contain life, just like a horseshoe. I've heard in the past that a horseshoe, the only way it can contain good luck is if it is like this, like a U shape. If it is upside down, it pours the luck out, which would be the same thing here, that you're actually pouring the water out of the vessel. And so this represents death. The life force, so the waters go out of the body, and, upside down, it gives life. So, after seeing this, I was like, wait a minute. This is the Ankh. This is the shape that they are constantly showing us that, is life-giving. But no, it's quite the opposite. And as you can see, here's all the other symbols. Look, the basketball that people are playing is Terra. When you play basketball, you're playing ball with Terra, which is Earth. Then down here, you guys recognize this? Uranus is one of the TIE fighters from Star Wars. There's nothing new under the sun. All we have to do is pick up the pieces and try to figure out what people are talking about. So all of the other planets and different alchemical elements, they're all here. It's important to get to know this stuff because we will be seeing these things out in the world and we won't know what they mean. But, coming across this, it stopped me in my track and I'm like, wait a minute, because it hit me about the Ankh. Now, let's go look at some other stuff. And here we have the alchemical symbol for death represented in the Omega symbol. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. Remember this? Remember that saying? I do believe that the Greek letters hold a lot of secrets that we have not tapped into. So the Alpha would be this symbol. This is actually delta, but it also represents alpha, because as the A is created for the alphabet system, all they did was extend these two sides down, and they left this symbol across. So alpha is also life. Alpha is also fire. This is the symbol for fire, alchemically. So it's this. And then also, you know, we see this. This is fire. This is also represented in the astrotheology chart. What they have for delta is the fire symbol. It's represented here in Aries as the symbol for fire. Four-sided pyramid. It has the bottom and the three sides, and it is a pyramid shape. That's why they had pyramids in Egypt. And that was represented in Aries. They possibly built these structures. Very important to learn symbology and the symbolism of all these kinds of images, because it will make you more aware of all kinds of things. You've seen this before, right? You've seen the circle and the triangle in Harry Potter. All of this stuff is out here, and it's a language speaking to us, but we are ignorant to its knowledge. That omega symbol in Greek letters is also the symbol for ohm. Ohm is also used in electricity. Ohm subsequently also represents Saturn. It is the alpha and the omega. So the alpha would be the sun, which is life-giving, and omega is the death, which is Saturn. Symbolism will take us on a different ride. So I'm wondering if people should actually be using this as a mantra. I don't know. You know, I think we need to question everything that we're doing to make sure that we're not invoking something that we don't wish to happen. So here we are, alpha, omega, and this is the upside down pyramid, which is the symbol for water. So this would be the alpha, the omega, and the Holy Mother. And this is a Holy Trinity right here. Oh my gosh. That's how I see everything now. I can just start going, oh my gosh, do you see this? Do you see that? How everything is actually tied, and it's just scattered out here. All we have to do is go pick up the pieces, like shards of glass with information to put all the picture back together. So we're going to keep going. I want to try to find the symbolism for representing Saturn, because this was similar to what I saw when I had a astronomy class back during college, and we went to the observatory, the actual, you know, huge telescope that you can go to. We got to go there for free because I was in that class, and we got to look at Saturn, and it looked like this, except it was like if you had this circle and then it had the little ends coming out, and it was just a light. It was not anything special. It was not colorized. It was not special like what you're seeing from NASA's lies, from all of their imagery that they've been getting artists to create. It didn't look like it was anything except a tiny little light that was shaped similar to this, except the line was going up through the middle, and it was just illuminated in that shape with a black background. That was it. There were no colors. There was no special thing about it. And this was going through a big telescope. So what are we looking at? I don't know, but I think they're lying to us about everything. That's what I do know. And, you know, what does it all mean? Well, you know, when you look at this, it's the same as this. See the resemblance? So since Saturn is L, and I know I'm getting off of the Egypt thing, but if Saturn is El, the father of electricity, El, father of heaven, Saturn, and his major son, Hadad, father of earth, which is Jupiter, are symbolized by the bull, and they wear bull horns on their headdresses. This is in Canaanite, which are cannibals, mythology. El builds a desert sanctuary with his children and his two wives, leading to speculation that at one point El was a desert god. Can you believe this? Okay, desert god, but El is not just a god, it's Saturn. There's information regarding Ovid. I got this information from a YouTube video about Ovid. And it talks about Saturn. It says he ruled next to Janus, the two-faced god. He wielded the power of lightning, electricity, electri, psi, tie. C and T are the same in etymology, and they are part of the symbology of sound frequencies. But tri is the Holy Trinity. Ek is Ekinar, the holy realms. Then L is Saturn. He formed the world, so was the original king. So he's king, he's Lord of the Rings, and was later replaced by Jupiter, who is Thor. Here's L, the amazing name L. L is generally accepted shortened form of Elohim, the god. Etymologically, the link may not be so strong. In its signature charming way, BDB, Theological Dictionary, states the question intricate and conclusion dubious. Doesn't matter. We see right here the L is Saturn. Now, here is an image that's carved into one of the different buildings in Egypt. I want to show you what I see here. If you zoom in, you can see the upside down Ankh. It's like a water drop. And so I was like, wow, okay. This is the sun. Because the sun gives life. And that's what this means. It's giving life to this person. And this person is a priestess because of this hat that she's wearing. I suspect that this is probably a brown person. And what she's holding, I'm not sure of. But she's holding them in the sun. And the sunlight is showing her that's giving her life. And down here in the corner is another upside down Ankh. And there was another person down here. So it's giving life to them too. And they're holding up these implements, the little items, to the sun. And the sun is giving life. And you see the hand. This is a hand from the sun ray, which is Ra. Ray is Ra, R-A. And so it's giving life. This is important, especially when you're going to do magic. Magic is the highest knowledge. Let's keep going. This is one of the spells from the Egyptian Book of the Dead. Now, this is showing that these people that are this color, this greenish color, they're dead. So they are representing as spirits. They are deceased, and they are advising in this ritual, because this is a ritual right here, where they want to resurrect this dead person. This person is probably freshly dead and wrapped up, because they're bound here. There's no arms. You can't see them. And this bird is flying over. Now, all of this is such a deep hole. Like, everything out here is one big puzzle. And I came across too, that was also referenced to the Egyptian Book of the Dead, this shape right here. This shape is also the vulture color. Vulture being referenced to Egypt. It's an Egyptian symbol. And it almost represents an envelope. Well, this is spell number 157, and it's a resurrection spell in Egypt for the Egyptian Book of the Dead. And this is for An and Nebo. Now, let me show you this. Here, we have the Freemason apron that they always wear when they're doing their little rituals and their classes and all that stuff. Whenever they have their assembly, you will see the Freemasons wearing this symbol. It is also this. It's a resurrection spell. And this is the vulture collar. Where else have we seen this symbol? Well, we've seen it here in this email symbol to send mail. And it's also, of course, on our envelopes. Why do our envelopes have to have this shape? Why? It could be just about any shape. It could be anything else. But it's this, because it's also implying that they're using magic for resurrection of On and Nebo. Let's keep going. Now, you got to know this. GYP for Egypt. It's also to gyp, or to cheat or swindle. American English traditionally derived from gypsy. And gyp is attested from 1794 as university slang for a servant that waited on students in their halls. This is said to have been especially a Cambridge word, and a story told there derived it from Greek gyps, or vulture. Remember the vulture collar? In reference to thievish habits of the servants. As a noun, fraudulent action, a cheat, gypsy's abbreviated form gyp is attested from 1840. Gypping, or gypping, spelled a different way with GIP, was a term late 19th century among horse dealers for tricks such as painting the animal's gray hairs brown, puffing the gums, etc., related, gypped. And here we have GIP, attested from 1840 as an abbreviation of gypsy. Gypped, gypping. Now, alternative spelling, Jew. So the G and the J are interchangeable. To cheat, to drive a hard bargain, from Jew, compared to gyp. Though now commonly employed without direct reference to the Jews as a race, it is regarded by them as offensive and opprobrious. The campaign to eliminate it in early 20th century was so successful that people also began to avoid the noun and adjective, using Hebrew instead. But you also know that even though the J and the G are interchangeable here, the H and the J are also interchangeable. So this could be Hugh, like the name Hugh. Here's gypsy. And so basically, gyp is also Hebrew, the word Hebrew. So that would be like all of these letters, they've changed everything to confuddle us and confuddle our minds. But we're catching up with them and their lies. And they, I suspect, are descendants from Egypt and what happened during the fall of the empire. This is a map of the Babylonian Empire. As you can see, it spills over into Egypt too. This is going to encompass all of the different lands where we're fighting right now. Like everybody's fighting, and they've always been fighting, because there's different people that know that a lot of this stuff is evil. And as you can see, it encompasses Israel, and it overlays in Iraq and all these other countries surrounding this different area. That's one thing to note, so that you can kind of get an idea of where all this stuff is coming from. And I suspect that Saudi Arabia is one of the main perpetrators of all of this deception that's out here in the world. They are part of the Egypt Empire. Okay, so I'm just going to run through some photos that I have taken from the Egyptian Book of the Dead and just look at some things. What we have here is a priest or priestess. They make them look kind of the same, but they're wearing a robe. That's what they're showing here. Is, when they're wearing white, it's a white magician. White magicians know black magic too. And here we have the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. And this is tablet number 8, the Key of Mysteries. I actually have the book, but I wanted you guys to see this little thing about only the white magician can control these denizens from the underworld, and that the white magician must know the black magic as well. So this is just a little blurb just to add into this video. Yet beware, the serpent still liveth in a place that is open at times to the world. Unseen they walk among thee in places where the rites have been said. Again, as time passes onward, shall they take the semblance of men. Called may they be by the master, one who knows the white or the black. But only the white master may control and bind them while in the flesh. So that's what that little thing is about. It's just about controlling the things that have been summoned from below. It even says right here that, even before Atlantis, these things existed, but these things are formless and they're from another vibration. This is from the spirit realm. They exist unseen by the children of earthmen. Only through blood could they have formed being, which means they have to take over a body, basically a possession. Only through man could they live in the world. They take over the people's bodies, just like Invasion of the Body Snatchers, but they have to be called forth by another magi, another magician. In ages past, were they conquered by the masters, driven below to the place whence they came. But some there were who remained hidden in the places unknown to man, and they lived in Atlantis as shadows from the shadow domain, which is yin. But at times they appeared among men. When the blood is offered, which is blood sacrifice, they came to dwell among men. What have we been seeing? We've been seeing black magic everywhere with all the human trafficking. And this is where I made this connection of they're actually summoning these things from another dimension, which is in Yggdrasil, it's the underworld, it's hell. In the form of man, they amongst us, but only to sight were they as men. Serpent headed when the glamour was lifted, but appearing to man as men among men, crept they into the councils, taking forms that were like unto men. Slaying by their arts the chiefs of the kingdoms. What have we been seeing? We've been seeing them taking over the different countries around the world, taking their form and ruling over man. Only by magic could they be discovered. Only by sound could their faces be seen. Sought they from the kingdom of shadows to destroy man and rule in his place. This is exactly what we're seeing out here in the world. They're destroying the world by these people from Egypt who have been grasping at power and control. They've gotten out of control. And now these things are in control. They've taken over their bodies and they are now in people's place. But know that the masters are mighty in magic and able to lift the veil from the face of the serpent and able to send him back to his place. Came they to man and taught him the secret, the word that only a man can pronounce. Swift they lifted the veil from the serpent to cast him forth from the place among men. Beware, the serpent still liveth in a place that is still open at times to the world. This is usually during the age of Pisces, once man has his fall from his high estate, from Aries down, because they've been summoning these things. Because men are greedy, they are fickle of the mind, and they cannot stand in honor and integrity and in valor and all of the different values for a virtuous life. And that's why we see all the materialism in the world. We've been led astray. But each of us can actually turn our own ship around and take a higher path. So they walk unseen amongst us in places where the rites have been said. And again, as time passes onward, shall they take the semblance of men. So this happens time and time again during this great cycle of time. This little wheel right here shows us that as we traverse around, we follow this body here in the middle, and we get to the highest state and we drop back down, because this same thing happens time and time again since the dawn of time. The men get proud in their knowledge, which is spoken of in the Emerald Tablets, and they get to this high intellect of knowing high magic and all the magic facilities and how the world works. And once they gain this knowledge, they want more power and more control, some of them. And they continue down this dark path of taking over, and that leads us back down into this dark winter of consciousness. And we drop back down to the feet, and they take over, because now, the world has been corrupted and erased, like the minds are being erased by these other people who put themselves on high, when we're not supposed to be ruled by anyone. We're supposed to only be ruled and guided by our spirits. And that will be your journey, if you're on the path now, to follow your spirit instead of following what you're being told in the world and told what to do. Then as you progress through your different incarnations, you will come out a golden light in the golden age. You will be of a high estate to teach others the ways of the world and possibly teach magic or wisdom. And then you will keep ascending. So all of the people of the golden age, some of them ascended to higher planes that we're not aware of. But these ones that descended, because the two spiraling vortices of Aries show that you're spiraling up and you're spiraling down. So there's light spiraling and dark spiraling, just like the moon cycles. And that's what happens time and time again as this wheel continues. These images will have some of the same symbols in here. This is Osiris. Osiris was resurrected from the dead. And he obviously was also, by the shape of his hat, he was also a priest, which means that they wanted knowledge from him. He was dead. So they summoned him from the dead to get his knowledge. Now, another thing that I noticed was strange. I guess these are all of the different elements and implements that you have to use to raise Osiris from the dead. They contain lotus flowers and all kinds of stuff. And then obviously some sort of little trinket basket. It's probably got some other elixir or something in it. I haven't figured out what this is on their head that they're wearing, but I'm sure the blue is also significant. But this little staff thing, this this rod over here, is a common feature in a lot of these different images that I've come across. And as you can see, this man is obviously alive because he's sitting up in front of this person. And I think they are asking him, they are summoning his spirit, and they are asking him questions about secrets, because that's what you can do, is you can summon the dead back into life. And if you give them a body, then they can take over the body. But then they can give you secrets about the underworld and about how to do things. Okay, this is an actual stele or slab. Here it is. They're holding these little ankhs. The ankhs are representative of death. The water is flowing out of this implement. And I suspect that this is a blood moon. I don't think it's the sun, because the sun is always represented as gold. And learning about all of the different colors and the planets and what they represent and in alchemy, I believe that this may be, it's either Mars or it's the blood moon. More likely, it's the blood moon. It's part of the rituals. A lot of this, sure, the jackals, they probably represent something too, because the jackals are supposed to be tied to the underworld. And then you have both eyes of Horus. Now, I found something interesting about this. When you have both eyes, and they're just like if you were wearing them, there's actually something very familiar about this image. I was like, oh my gosh, that looks just like. So it led me to this image. And this is a Hermetic image that is based on Jacob and Boaz. Jacob is the spine. Jacob is the fire. Jacob is the pyramid forms that are in your spinal column, the fire for the spirit, and then the moon. The moon is the divine feminine, it's the yin principle. These are the two pillars, the foundation for the forces of everything, forces of nature, the duality, the duat. This is Osiris and the two eyes of Horus, or the two different factions of the hours of the day. One is the darkness, one is of the light. This is a symbol for the moon, the left eye. The symbol for the right eye is the sun, or life, the light of life. What I'm learning about magic is that everything that you want to bring into the darkness, if you want to work with black magic, you work in nighttime. And so Venus, the star of the morning, which is also Lucifer, morning star, is a positive force. It is the working with the light element, because Venus is the star of the morning. It brings the sun. It precedes the sun. When you look to the east in the morning, before the actual sun comes up, you will see Venus on the horizon. Then in the evening, Venus is on the horizon and is called Vesper, the dark star or demon star. And all of this is part of magical practice. It means that it's bringer of the darkness. And you work at 3 a.m., the hour of the jackal or the witching hour, to do your darkest magic. All of this stuff is based on the sun and moon cycles. And when you have a new moon is when you do the darkest magic as well. And also blood moons. All of this stuff is out here, and we have not known any of it. But this is also, it was predates possibly this type of image. because this is Hermetics, which is based in Thoth, Hermes Trismegistus. I'm not sure why it's based in that, because all of the things in Hermes, I've actually been questioning who Hermes was. Eyes of Horus, the eyes of the hours of the day and night is what it represents. Nighttime, daytime. So here we go with this. This is also, I believe that they are initiating people into the practice of black magic, because as you saw previously, that in the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, it says that the white magician controls the white and the black magic. And this looks like a woman is initiating this other woman, and this is quite possibly an Asian person who is telling them that they are now worthy of the magic of death, as this ankh is being presented to their face. And this symbol right here of the horns is symbolic of Taurus, the bull. Taurus, the bull, is an earth symbol. It is all things of earth and of material plane. This round disc, typically within the two horns, is the moon. Now, since this is red, I would suggest that this is quite possibly a blood moon, and that this is during the initiation. Maybe they say, okay, well, this is the blood moon. This is when we're going to say our initiates have earned the right to become a white magician, because they know the black magic as well. And this is another Anubai that is also giving this initiate, one of the Pharaohs, that little magic ankh as well, saying, yes, you've already earned this seal of approval of being initiated into the practice of black magic and white magic. It all depends on the clothes that they wear as well. Here it is again. As we see, this is a magi. This is one of the priests, as he has the long beard and the long hat, giving it to another person who has a long beard and long hat. This is elevated knowledge, I'm sure, this idea of the elongated skull. It means that they have risen to a potential height in the mind and expanded in their consciousness and their awareness, and that this is the symbol for death. Here it is again as a wand. This is an ankh at the end of the wand. Here is the initiate with the serpent, which is, of course, a cobra, as we see oftentimes in Egypt. The cobra is a hooded snake, and it expands as it rises. So this is possibly representing the third eye, because it is presented at that point in the forehead that the third eye is awakened and expanded into consciousness. They have awakened their kundalini and also their awareness of their magical practice. Here we go again with the ankh. There are two priestesses here. They are sitting on the seat, which is that symbol for the vulture. This is the symbolic of the magical ritual of resurrection. And again, this ankh is holding up. This is not the sun. This is not life-giving. This would be yellow if it were life-giving, to represent the golden sun. There's no rays either. The rays, R-A, coming out of it are not there. So that means that this is symbolic of the moon or Mars. Then you have the monkeys. I'm not sure what the monkeys represent. This looks like a bowl for rituals. Maybe that's what is being represented as, a hat on her head, or just over the head for that. This is also one of those chairs. Looks like the chair, like maybe she's a priestess who sits in holds a specific place on the seat of this hermetic order. Here we go again with this idea of Osiris, who has been resurrected from the dead. He is dead because he's green. He has the elongated hat, which means he contains knowledge. And he wears white. This is quite possibly a mummy outfit, like he's wrapped in swaddling bandages. All of these things out here before him are quite possibly the offerings or the elements that you have to have in unison to be able to summon this entity. He is also encased in some sort of ceremonial or protective box. He's surrounded by something, quite possibly to keep him from taking over a body, because that's what you do when you use a pentagram. You form this circle of protection and you form the star as the pentagram shape in the middle because it represents the human body, with the spirit being the upright portion of the pentagram, and then the 4 elements as the appendages. But as you can see, these people are wearing white. White will keep the dark spirits also away from you. White is a very powerful color because it represents the light. The light is more powerful than the shadow realm. And it comes from the heavenly realm and it illuminates all things. Now, you will see this figure in many other images. This figure looks like a bound servant or an offering, honestly. And that, some of these images are quite possibly the formulas for how to summon these entities. Usually these entities are also representative of planets, because the planets are not what we are told. The planets are actually beings or intelligences, consciousnesses that we can connect to. We can connect and communicate with that energy. And that's how you do it, is through magical practice. That's why magic is the highest knowledge that can be obtained in this existence. And they don't want us to have it, which is why we are fighting in the world right now. But the magic is coming back. Now, there are some symbols in the background here that you can't hardly make out. It looks like something, like it might be a person that's lying down here to represent someone who has sacrificed themselves or is dead. Usually a bird has something to do with the hours of Horus, which is hours. It represents where the sun is in the sky. And the cross is always a symbol for many different things, actually. So it's not a religious artifact. It is actually something that can be used and interpreted in many different ways. And we use it in our mathematical equations too. So something to think about. And this is just a screenshot that I took from looking up the different images of Egypt, because I was trying to find all of these images from the Book of the Dead that I had come across. And I was like, oh my gosh, there's information here that needs to be spoken of. I do not have the Egyptian Book of the Dead, but just the images alone started telling a tale after I came across some of the images, with alchemy and all the other things. When we're looking at this says it's from Thebes, Egypt. Now, in Spanish, the B is also pronounced like a V in English. So this is Thieves of Egypt. You see what that reads? That's what that actually reads? Thieves of Swindlers. Okay. Now, going into this image. So here we have a ritual that is being performed by some initiates, because they obviously are not high magicians. They don't have the hat that the other priests were wearing. But we have someone who is obviously dead. They quite possibly are Asian because of the color of the skin. These women are quite possibly also Asian, as they have a more straight upper eyelid than these other men in the background. They're very similar in their eye structure. But this person is wrapped and bound and is yellow. It looks like he's in a mummy suit, basically, like wrapped. They are also making these asanas, or body postures, and using mudras here that's symbolic of an honoring. These Anubai are real beings. They were actually real back during Egypt's day. I saw them in one of my hypnosis sessions. They were actually physically there. I believe that they were created somehow. But everyone else is bringing forward implements, either as gifts or to help resurrect this entity, because this entity looks like they're dead. They're very serious. They have a very serious face. This other person has some sort of pipe or an incense. They're burning something. And then here's the offerings, or all of the implements that are used in the spell. This series of circles also reminds me of a symbol that I came across where this entity it's a woman entity, and it has many breasts, and they're shaped like a bunch of eggs on her chest. That's what that looks like to me. I don't have that image right now, but maybe I'll do a video on that later, because I'm going to have this image in my stockpile of images. But I just wanted to show this little ritual. And we've seen, of course, these Osiris types of statues out here in the world that are represented in different places, like Washington, D.C. They look like acupuncture points in the earth. And they probably are, because they have a pyramid point at the top. So you can probably amplify the fire principle here, attach it to this conical shape that expands outwards like a pyramid, and then it probably harnesses the energy just like a magic wand, just like a needle, and sends it out the top. That's how that all works. So this is the next image, and as you can see here, we have an initiate. He's wearing the white robes. He has the vulture collar, and he's being led by Anubis, one of the Anubi. They have the scales here. They're performing different rituals, and Thoth is scribing all of this. He's writing all of the records. He's keeping records of everything. He's just an observer. Whether he is important in the rituals or not, it just means that he's there to keep the records and to write them down. Whether it's good, bad, it doesn't really matter. He has to observe all these things. But the Anubi is also carrying the Ankh of Death, or the Ankh of Life, depending on how you use it. And up at the top, we have someone who is either a teacher, obviously a priestess. She's wearing a white robe. She's signaling with sign language or just hand gestures, because I believe that if you speak, you're casting spells. So they may have used a lot of different sign language back in the day instead of speaking. And she's signing to all of these, either they're initiates or they're going to be used as sacrifice, because some of them have the Ankh of Death sitting on their knees. And there's no arms. Why don't these people have arms by their sides or holding the Ankh with their hand? You know, it's really weird. It's almost like they're bound in a suit and they can't move. So either they're being initiated or they're being sacrificed. Now, what's also interesting is it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, which would represent the different planets. Whenever you have 7, it's usually a planetary thing. And then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I don't know how many more there are because it just continues off the page. But these don't have that Ankh. Now the next image, and some of these may not even be part of Egypt, but the thing to note is that it has a lot of the symbolism. Even if it's modern artwork, it has a lot of the symbolism, and all of the symbolism can be found in Egypt. So here we have probably a priest and a priestess. She, again, looks Asian because of the color of her skin. They are in this stance because posture matters. These different asanas, ideas of asanas and mudras and things of this nature, they actually have power that we've not been told. And there could be bowing to whatever entity is over on the other side that is not shown here. I collected this image because, again, we have what looks like initiates who are actually in school, because they are not bound to a suit necessarily. They're in a suit, but you see their arms are holding that little implement that I pointed out earlier. It's like a magical staff. The things that we see in the movies with, like Gandalf from Lord of the Rings, he carries a staff around. What is the actual shape of this? We don't know. We don't know what this is constructed of. It doesn't look like it's copper, but perhaps it's something else. But see, you can see the end of this one. This one has the ohm symbol at the end. Just something to note. Here's another one. Looks like they all have a similar end. And here we have another art piece. And if this were real art, I don't know if it is, found from Egypt, then this would be a Fomorian. The Fomorians are giants who came from the sea, and they actually would attack towns and stuff. And I don't believe that all giants are bad. I believe it's just like regular people. You know, some people are good, some people are bad. Same with animals and everything else. And you also have a blue being. This person, if it is a real image from Egypt, this person most likely took a large amount of colloidal silver. Silver is the moon in alchemy, and it will turn you blue if you bathe in it every day and you drink it every day like water. You will eventually turn blue. There was a man who turned blue, and you guys can look that up on the internet. He looked like Papa Smurf, but he turned blue. And he, you know, it increased his vision, gave him 20/20 vision, and he said that he could also levitate. Is it true? Quite possibly. I believe that gold and silver actually have unbelievable capabilities, and that if you drink both of them, it has to be pure gold and pure silver. It cannot be these alloys that we have in the world. If you colloidal them in a solution of distilled water, you can drink that solution, and I believe it will give you long life if you drink both of them together. But again, here's these little initiates or sacrifices. Interesting that it alternates colors in this image, and they're also, you know, depicted as different beings. What are they holding? Maybe it's a magic wand, but they look bound again. And here again is the scales. Are they weighing the balance? I don't think this is just stories of people getting ready for the underworld. I just don't. I think that you resurrect these beings. And that's what the Book of the Dead is about resurrecting ones that have crossed over. Here's another person that is blue. Here in the middle, we have, it looks like some sort of animal, but I don't know what that is really. And then these look like some sort of plant. I don't know what this is, but it's offerings. And you remember in Egypt how they talked about how they would find these internal organs in jars. It's because they were doing magical rituals, not because they were preserving the bodies. You can preserve the bodies so that they can be resurrected. And I believe that's why they are putting us in boxes, in coffins today, is so that if there's someone of interest that they want to dig up, they can go and extract the body and extract the DNA and then do these rituals to where they can summon you from the dead. They will summon your spirit. Remember the story about Rasputin? And in Hellboy, they actually walked around with Rasputin's corpse, and Rasputin was basically brought back from the dead and would tell them how to do things and would give them powerful information. That's what all of this is about. Now, here we go with Osiris again. He's encapsulated once more in some sort of temple type room separate from everybody else. I believe it is some sort of room of protection. As you can see, there's different colors here. I believe all of this is significant. I don't think this is just decorative. You don't decorate everything if you're trying to send a message. This could quite possibly be the ritual that is necessary to bring forth Osiris. So you would need male and female and possibly these creatures, and they're wrapped in mummy suits. So that means that they are dead, or you know, that's the sacrifice. That's what I believe that this is about, is like, these are the types that you need to sacrifice, and the amount that you need, the number of blood that you need to summon this being, and that all of this is part of the ritual. Now, this is the right eye, the Ra right here, the eye of Ra, and that would be of life. Maybe to give Osiris life? Maybe. I don't know. Then there's the priestesses in the back. They're happy to have him on board. Here's Horus, the hours. He is also holding the Ankh, both is scribing the process, and so it is. Now here's Osiris again, and as you can see, they're holding him up because he's dead. He's wrapped in mummy clothes, wrapped up in a suit, but he is the priest who has all this knowledge. They are giving him not life, but they're bringing him back from the dead, because there's a channel here. This is the eye of Horus that is up here above, which is nighttime. This is the yin principle. And these priestesses are quite possibly Asian again. The color of their skin matters, unless they are Caucasian. This guy is red-skinned. Quite possibly he could be what we consider Native American. There's no hair on this person. He's probably shaved his head, but there's no beard. And then here's all the little items, again, that are piled up. Notice this shepherd's staff that's here. Again, that is a magical implement used in ceremony. You have the shepherd's staff once more, and then the stave, I guess, is what this other thing is. It could be a lash, but it's Osiris, and they're holding him, making sure he can stand. Here's the two doors, the yin and the yang. This is yang, this is yin. This is, look at this, holding part of the Ankh. Now again, this is death, and this is a mummy, so he's wrapped up, okay? Here we have a whole bunch of stuff going on. Now look, these are not children. These are giants. They are much larger in stature than us. They existed. So did these animal head beings. They can take the heads and reanimate them now. Have you heard about that? In science today, they have reanimated their first head. Yeah, because they did this back in the day. They did all kinds of stuff like this. But he's wearing the priest hat again. So this is a master magician who can do many things. They had many initiates into these arts, and Thoth is scribing all of it. Here he is. He's writing about all of this because they needed somebody to do it. He was just an observer, but apparently he also disclosed a lot of this information to the regular populace. And here we go. These people are inside a protective area while these other things are outside. Now, again, I don't know what this is on top of the heads of these creatures, but it does remind one of the old police bubbles on top of the police cars. You know, before they had the types that they have today, they had one dome on top of the police car. That's kind of what that looks like. What is it symbolic of? I really don't know. I don't know, because I haven't gone that far into Egyptian symbolism and stuff. But just looking into alchemy shows you lots of things. This woman looks Asian. She looks like one of the geisha. She's very pale, like she's got on this white makeup or something. And she's sitting there, obviously making mudras and things, while she sits behind this other priest who looks like he's playing chess. He looks Arabic, honestly. But he's putting some things on this table while he's holding this sheet thing. It's like a handkerchief or napkin, or maybe it's paper. Then this one was kind of disturbing. So here we have the priest. I guess it's a priest. He's got a beard. He's reading probably the rites, the rituals. There's all the implements. There's some stuff here, alchemical stuff. Another pile of things that they've used. And Anubis is holding up this pharaoh. But what is she doing? And why is she so pale? Is she one of the geisha? But her arm is similar to the arm of those other women But look at where she is. This is in the Egyptian Book of the Dead, this image, because this is where I got it from the internet. And some of the stuff is like, okay, what are we looking at? This is obviously a ritual, the whole thing. And this is what they do in Hollywood, this type of stuff, in order to gain the favor of their masters. Now, this guy is a priest. It looks like he's wearing the pelt of a leopard or some sort of cat, is what it looks like. Because it's got a tail and it's got the little 4 legs. And he's performing a ritual on this person who seems quite happy about it. So, again, initiate or sacrifice? I don't know. You don't see the arms. They look like they're bound up in a suit. Here's Horus with the symbol of death and the symbol for the moon, the blood moon. She's gesturing to Horus. Horus is bound. They're in the boat. The boat usually represents the river Styx, like coming and going from the river Styx, which is the land of the dead. Quite possibly just communicating with that figure, that entity Horus from the dead. And here's some artwork. I'm not sure if this is true Egyptian. You have the wand of death, as it has like these little diodes coming out of it, like prongs coming out of it. And we've seen that in some of the electrical components in the world. But again, see this staff? The way the staff is shaped, it has this curvature here, and the staff goes all the way to the ground. But then the ankh is stemming out from it to touch the face of this pharaoh who has awakened his third eye, which is what this serpent is. And this person is dead. Here's another image, same staff. This looks like modern artwork, but I'm not sure. He has the shepherd's staff. These are all magical implements. For what? I don't know. Maybe this one is to beat people when they're getting out of line or not paying attention, or, you know, if they feel like they need to hurt someone. I don't know. It could be something else. Fly swatter? No, just kidding. But all of these have some meaning. And I believe if we keep looking in alchemy symbols, we will find the meaning of all of these. And even this staff shape, it seems familiar, but I can't recall right now. But again, he's initiating this pharaoh into the dark arts. And he is a priest of high stature and status. More symbolism. Initiating, we've already seen that image, but here's one with a lioness as she has the moon on her head and a serpent that comes from the moon. She is holding the ankh and a staff. Now here we have Taurus. This is one of the bulls that they had that was guarding the labyrinths. You've heard about the bull-headed man and bull-headed god that had a man's body that would guard the labyrinths. Well, this is one of those things. And they are resurrecting him from the dead. They have to hold him up because he's bound in a mummified fashion and cannot stand on his own. Here's the horns and the blood moon. I'm just going to call it that because I feel like that's what it represents. Because you do these rituals during moon phases, and they have to be specific ones. They can't just be any moon phase. So if you're going to be doing any sort of magic, it's important to know the cycles of the moon. Black magic is actually performed when the moon is going out of phase. So the darkest moon, or the no moon, is when you do the deepest, darkest magic. And then for the full moon is when you're working with the light, when you're working with positive magic. This is also based on farming practices. The farmers out here, some of them that still go by the celestial alignments and the moon cycles, know that you do planting at certain phases because it increases the life force, which matters because of the different swirling energies the vortices of energies that the moon creates. There's a pushing and pulling, like a sucking and pushing out motion of energy when the moon is phasing in and phasing out. The moon is like a womb, and it's a womb of the earth, and it gives birth to all life. According to the philosophers of the Golden Age, Plato, Ptolemy, Pythagoras, you have Dante's poem, and also Aristotle. These people were all knowledgeable about all of the celestial heavens and how important they were to our spirit, and how the zodiac is actually a star map of how you can dictate your life, when things are going to happen in your life, when you're going to be challenged, where the planets are, because they're creating your personality. Because guess what? You and I are the gods who descended from heaven to earth came to have this physical experience. And this is why we need to take our power back in the world, because the usurpers of this world from Egypt are the ones who we're fighting against right now. And our great awakening is going to tell us that we are the stars from heaven to earth came. We are the angels from heaven, but we're only angels if we can learn about our different personalities and what we came here to do. We can either be a fallen angel that goes to the underworld, or we can be an angel that rises back up to heaven. So this is a book that I own. This photo is not from my book. I just took an image from online that was already there. This is a discovery by a man who practiced dowsing. And as you can see, this idea of counterclockwise pushes out energy. It's a force of darkness. So this is the yin principle. And then the yang principle is this positive principle of clockwise motion, which brings in energy. So you have positive and negative, which is what those moon cycles were about. Right here, the pushing and pulling of energies. This is how magic works, with the pushing and pulling of energies. This is what's happening everywhere. There's vortices of energy emitting from everything in existence. Here's this implement being used on a mummy from Horus. What this implement is, I don't know. It might be a brand, or perhaps it does something else. You know, maybe it has some energy, because you can put the magic into implements. The magic from your mind, if you have a powerful mind, you can put it in the implement, and then it can be used on people. That's what magic wands are for. And this is the image that started this entire journey. This is Osiris again. They're resurrecting him. He looks pregnant, honestly. He has an X, which is interesting. And they're having to hold him up because they summoned him from the dead. And this is one of the pharaohs and one of his accomplices, as the accomplice holds the Ankh of death. Here we have Horus giving the initiate the Ankh of death. It's an honor to be initiated into the dark arts. Again, another initiate being given the Ankh. This one has beads around it because that's what this lioness or lion is holding on to. Obviously, this could probably be a lioness because of the moon it carries over its head. All of this is about saying that they are worthy now, that they've learned the black arts and they can become part of the evils of the world, the dark society, the shadow government that is now losing control because of the Great Awakening that they're trying to cease from happening. Here's another image of Anubis resurrecting the dead. This is probably one of their favorite initiates or something. He was one of the pharaohs, and he is wrapped up as a mummy. This is what mummies are, people. They are actually part of this whole process of black magic. They are not kings and queens. They were part of all of these evils of the world, I suggest. Now, you may or may not have heard of how Akhenaten and our famous Barry Soetoro, aka Obama, look eerily similar. This is a younger version of Barry Soetoro, aka Obama, and this is Akhenaten. Akhenaten was the first pharaoh that came about and started claiming that there was only one God. The one God theory suggests that there's only one planet, basically, and that is Saturn, I would suspect anyway. But yeah, that the whole idea and concept of creating this religion of the mind was to push people away from the knowledge of magic and to make them fearful of it because they threatened to kill people for their knowledge. And that's exactly what they did. They marched around the world with the Inquisitions. They religioned the minds of the people to only believe in one God. And what's wrong with the world today is that people don't realize that their one God is a very jealous God, the one that they're worshiping in the Bible. And it quite possibly is Yaldabaoth, or maybe it's Saturn. Which god is it? I'm not sure. But what's being done out here is a black magic ritual on the minds of the masses to help them perpetuate the darkness that is all around us. And everybody is a practitioner in black magic. As I have come across a video that also states some of this, that we're all black magicians and we're all participating in this whole ritual because it is one universe, one voice together that we create this existence. And the more that we are on the same page and the same line of thinking, then we create the magic in the world that we wish to see. But, when everybody's divided and people are fighting and arguing, and you have lower states of consciousness out here throwing accusations everywhere about all kinds of stuff, they're basically just ignorant. It causes conflict and it keeps us from uniting in purpose and becoming one voice. And that was all part of this great deception that began in Egypt. So I hope you guys like this presentation, and I will see you guys soon on the next video. See you soon.